Yeah. Like, oh yeah, Chuck, I'll get right on that. Thank you, bro. I was slacking. That's on me. Like,
Yeah, at least when Bernie tweets shit like that, he's like for real about it instead of just
yeah.
talking
Well,
shit.
he's like,
Like Chuck Schumer, like I bet that like low key, I bet he actually really believes that shit, but he like got too much pressure from his donors, so he's no way he
mhm.
actually ever gonna like really push that.
Bro. I mean, like the Fed could forgive student loans right now if they wanted to. They could do it so easily, and they just
Really push that. Yeah.
whatever. That's how it is. I mean, if you can bail out Wall Street for $700 billion, you can bail out, was it, the $1 trillion in student loans? If you could do that with a signing of a bill, you can forgive student loans instantly. But they choose not to.
Yeah, man. It's like
They choose to keep everybody.
ever since I seen what they actually can do.
Hmm.
Like I was radicalized by it when I actually learned about the 2008 crash and the
Hmm.
like the
Yeah.
original corporate bailouts, because that happened when
Hmm.
I was just graduating high school. I graduated in 2009, and then the corporate bailouts happened, and I'm
Hmm.
like, oh, so we got money to do shit like this? And then someone broke it down to me one day.
Oh yeah.
I wish I remember who,
Hmm.
but someone broke it down to me. And it was like, if we can pay for the Iraq War that was trillions of dollars, like we could pay for
Yeah.
all these
Hmm.
progressive policies. This is back when I was always a progressive, but I couldn't
Hmm.
explain why we should do the policies. Like I might agree with Medicare for all back then, but if you ask me like how you gonna pay for it, I
Hmm.
was like, shit, I don't know, man. You might be right. I don't know. We can pay like how like I would fall for it back in the day, but now I know. I'm like,
Yeah.
I don't know how anyone can watch what they did with the COVID bailout packages and not be a radical lefty now. Because like, bro, we can spend
Yeah.
$5 trillion bailing out Wall Street
Hmm.
and all these billionaires while they
Yeah.
increase their wealth. We can do real up to bottom up economics instead of trickle down. So
Hmm.
that's why I was
Yeah.
posting today. I'm like, because we had Hamdi on last week, and she was
Hmm.
posting about $30 an hour minimum wage. And I'm like, bet,
Hmm.
whatever. I was like, whatever, because I've been telling people, all right, maybe we should have $20 minimum wage, and I'm like, that's like
Hmm.
far right as I wanted to go. I feel like that's
Yeah.
me negotiating
Yeah.
pretty reasonable, but I'm not negotiating with
Hmm.
the right wing when it comes to that. If you have people like Hamdia
Yeah.
who's to my left on that issue, I'm like, all right, I'm willing to
Yeah.
hear you out, but I'm not willing to hear the people out that's okay with poverty or whatever. So
Oh yeah. I mean, I think
you
that's one of
hot,
those
by the
things.
way.
Like, I don't like to. I don't decide. Hey, Jackie, how you doing?
Amdia is right, by the way.
Yeah.
Hey,
Yeah,
Nix.
yeah, I agree with her. Like I made my
Yeah.
tweet and I was like, "Hey, yo, if you to the left of me on this, I hear you and I agree with you."
Oh yeah.
But I was like, "Yo, I think it should be at least $20." And there's no way you can move me to the right on that shit. Like, are you kidding me? $20 is a starting
Yeah.
ground. 15.
Should
The
it
fight for
should be
15
Oh yeah.
started.
25?
What? The fight for 15 is like what? 12 years old, 11 years old, something like
Yeah.
that. Like, bro, that's
Yeah.
ancient. That's a long time ago. And in terms of
I
inflation,
mean,
so of course it should be at least 20. Like we've been reasonable, but then people were
It
like,
should
actually, it should be like 25. It should be 30. And I'm like, yeah, you're right. I
I
think you're
mean,
right.
yeah. I,
if
I
it had
don't. I
kept
don't.
up with inflation, it would
Hmm.
be around $25. That's
Hmm.
the number. So that's where I'm going with. Like
Yeah.
if it, because if you think about how many times the
Yeah.
cost of living has gone up and
Exactly.
and the rate of pay has remained stagnant, how are you supposed
Hmm.
to keep up if it doesn't keep up with inflation? So if you keep up with the number of times things have gone up, it should be
Hmm.
around $25. So that's not
Hmm.
unreasonable. It's not out of left field. It's not crazy.
Hmm.
That's actually
Hmm.
the norm. 20 is not
Yeah.
enough, especially out here in
Yeah.
California. Okay, it's already $14 an hour, and it's like, okay, thanks.
Hmm.
I can go
Yeah.
to McDonald's like one more time. Like that's pretty much
Yeah.
all it
Hmm.
is.
So I want to pull this up because
Hmm.
the reason why I say I go all in with living wage increases, whether it be $20, $25, $30 an
Hmm.
hour, because like, at what point do we actually fight back and in
Hmm.
this class war? Because I saw this article came out this week, September 14th, and this is like I be seeing these articles in mainstream news outlets. Like it's crazy.
Hmm.
You would actually see this stuff on like CBS. Like you would see
Yeah.
like reports about income inequality on CNN and Washington Post. They will actually post about it, but it's like, do the information not stick with you guys? Like, you guys will put this shit on your news sites, and then you guys will push back against arguments against trickle down economics. Because when I look at this one right here, this study, it said loss of annual income of $42,000 for a typical worker. Study finds, and this is and when I was looking at it, I think they were saying there was a course over the last few decades. So it's like this is because of policy that Washington D.C.
absolutely
and people like Joe Biden, because Joe Biden was a credit card company shill for the vast majority of his career. So
senator from MDNA.
Exactly.
So it's like
BNA,
when I see that kind of stuff, and when I see this class war that's been waged on us, I'm like, bro, I'm not being unreasonable. I'm counterpunching. Like, we counterpunching with our with our legislation, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think, like, to address your initial point, you're like, why do they post this stuff and then, like, but then they don't actually do anything about it? Is I think, like, we live in a culture that's very much geared towards that like awareness is activism. You know what I'm saying? Like, oh, if I recognize, like Gavin Newsom tweeting climate change is real while California is on fire. Like, bro, fuck off. Like, you signed 40 you signed 40 fracking bill or 40 fracking permits. Yeah, in the last 6 months since the crisis began.
During COVID, he signed 42 fracking permits, and he's gonna get up there and take a picture in front of the fires and be like, "Climate change is real." We know, dumbass. Stop fracking.
Yes, so that's like the thing. It's like you. This is kind of like the liberal posturing where it's like, oh, if I act like I'm aware of the issues, then that's good enough. If I put Black Lives Matter on the NBA floor, that's enough because I've recognized the issue and that's all I should do. We're not recognizing at all that, like, the sort of corporate lobbying they do is directly antithetical to everything that they're saying they're about. While they're trying to crush workers' rights or trying to lobby for fracking and get permits. All this stuff is directly antithetical to all this moral posturing that they do, and that's why virtue signaling exists as a term. It's stuff like that.
Yeah, because I remember I used to push back on that term when I heard conservatives use it, because I always assumed they was like talking about me. I don't virtue signal. I talk about what I actually talk about. So I'm like, yo, y'all. I used to think like, man, you guys are full of shit with this virtual signaling stuff.
Yeah.
And then you learn the difference between the liberal and the leftist, and then you realize like, oh shit, virtual signaling is actually a thing. It wasn't. They wasn't talking about me. They talking about our real opponents, the Biden bros, the Blue MAGA, the Pete Buttigieg and Warren Democrats, because they virtual signal all the time. We see it. We see it.
It's almost all they do. That's what Warren's entire campaign was virtue signaling.
Yeah.
The BLM blocks behind her in her interview. Remember that when she made the statement? She had
that's the Warren Democrat shit. Because Warren Democrats, I noticed, like, you notice on Twitter, they actually would do that. Like, they will have Black Lives Matter in their Twitter bio, for example.
Yeah.
And then they're not supporting defund the police. They support increased military budgets. They are big supporters of Kamala Harris, who supported civil asset forfeiture. But they got Black Lives Matter in their bio. So I'm like,
I don't see how you can proclaim to support Black Lives Matter or to actually believe that Black Lives Matter and unironically support Joe Biden or Kamala Harris.
I don't get that either, because I'm like, all right, if you're voting for Joe Biden, there's some things that, or whenever you vote for anybody, for example, there are some things you want to overlook. There's for example, I actually do vote for the lesser evil. I just don't have the same gauge of evil that the average liberal will have. For example, like, a lot of people have issues with Howie Hawkins, and I'm like, I got issues with Howie Hawkins too, but I'm still voting for him. That's my example of a lesser of two evils. Well, all right, man, Howie Hawkins, he's not really that charismatic. I don't like the direction the Greens are going. The fact they're not aggressively going for that 5% like they should. They had national culture that said they didn't want to cause Biden the election. So there's like some things about the Green Party that I don't like. But I'm like, at the end of the day, you see that platform? That platform is fire, and they happen to be on the ballot in my state. So I'm like, I'm gonna vote for them. See, that's my example of me
Mhm.
following my pride. Even though I'm not that enthusiastic about Howie, I like his platform, so I wanted to vote for him. What
Yeah.
to me is not with me is not acceptable is voting for a war criminal and voting for a guy who had policies that negatively affect my lives, negatively affect the community lives, and
Mhm.
a lot of my brothers and sisters I stand in solidarity with who I may not have felt the impact of that. Like for example, I didn't personally feel the impact of Obama and Biden's immigration policy.
Mhm.
I'm okay with on that. I feel like ICE is not gonna be a threat to me, if you know what I
Mhm.
mean. I feel like I'm
Yeah.
good on
Yeah.
that. But I feel
Yeah.
strongly about abolish ICE. I feel strongly about attacking ICE because I
Mhm.
stand in solidarity with my Latino brothers and sisters, especially when you hear the news story that just came out that um, ICE is literally committed a genocide. I mean I don't like to mince
Uh,
words on that.
um. Oof.
I mean I know you guys. I know Jackie probably got a lot to say about that, but I know when this story came out, there was like a shock of consciousness that you kind of felt when that story released because people were like, "What? Like this
Mhm.
Nazi Germany stuff?" I'm like, "Have you guys been
Yeah.
following
For real.
ICE for the last few years? Because ICE been
I
doing
mean,
shady shit for
okay.
years."
So
But
when you talk about the Nazi Germany, we tend to skip over Operation Paperclip,
Mhm.
and
yeah,
we really shouldn't,
yeah, I love talking about that.
because the scientists that we deemed, well, they were just scientists. They're not
Mhm.
war criminals. I mean, yeah, they were the ones who created they were the ones who thought up all of the horrible experiments done to
Mhm.
humans because they were doing it in the name of science. But,
Mhm.
let's just go ahead and absolve them of their sins as long as they work for us now.
Exactly. Well, there was a.
That's literally how we went to space.
Mm-hmm. Well, we had to beat the Soviets. You couldn't allow the Soviets to absorb that kind of talent. That was at least that was the you're like, oh, we're the lesser of two evils, so we'll absolve them while just actually absolving Nazi war criminals of atrocities against humanity. It's disgusting. But we
And
gotta get to space first.
the good thing is that we were able to learn from it and push past it, and we don't have such Russian propaganda infiltrating our politics now.
Man,
It's
Yeah.
not like people are saying, "Hey, Russia's interfering with your election," while the
Hmm.
Democrats actively try to take a party entirely off of the ballot.
They
yeah, and
did
then
in multiple
they
states.
cheering for it too.
Yes.
Like that was my response to what was that the Andy guy who he was
Hmm.
dragged by pretty much everybody because he was gleeful about the Green Party being removed
It's
from the
disgusting.
ballots,
Yeah.
and it was
Hmm.
like, bro, my response, which I'm happy it did pretty well in terms of my response. I was like, bro, you allowed Trump to steal your integrity, and that way you see a lot
Hmm.
with a lot. Well, that's like what happened with a lot of these people.
Hmm.
Like if
Hmm.
you are against Trump because you feel like Trump is a threat to our democracy, which
Yeah.
if you actually made that argument, I wouldn't necessarily disagree with you, to be honest
Hmm.
with you. But
Hmm.
you can't say that shit while you backing a party that is literally kicking their opposition off the ballots because they have the political power to do so. Because
Hmm.
they was able to get this done. Please correct me if I'm wrong in Wisconsin because they had three liberal judges. And they only managed to flip one conservative to get that done in
Hmm.
Wisconsin. Like I'm still reading about the Pennsylvania one.
Hmm.
This is the one I pulled up on the screen. I got to
Yeah.
see exactly how they pulled that one off. But I think I got that right regarding Wisconsin, right? Like they had the liberal judges that had political power. So my point was,
Hmm.
I'm like, okay, so I'm supposed to vote for people. I'm supposed to vote for people so they can install I'm supposed to vote for a Democrat so they can install liberal judges to kick leftists off the ballot. Like, what's the fucking point of that, right? And
Yeah.
I had a post not too long ago where I said, I remember this when the skulls were trending because Trump trying to hand victory to Joe Biden, talking about putting Ted Cruz and who else? I think he said Tom Cotton. Who else did he say they was about to put on the Supreme Court?
Hmm.
And when that news came out, there was like a big meltdown in the media,
Hmm.
and then the scores were trending, and people was wagging their finger at progressives again for not voting for Joe Biden. I'm literally just laid out very simple. I don't understand why people don't make this argument. Like, I don't
Yeah.
trust Joe Biden with a Supreme Court pick. I don't trust Democrats and liberals because they put pro corporate judges in place, and all these judges that liberals always put in and they get installed, they always rule for the corporations. So the left,
That's how we got Glass-Steagall.
yeah, exactly, literally exactly. You can go down the list,
which is how we got the problems that we have now. Like that's
And
why
Citizens
Bloomberg was
United,
able to buy his way into the presidency and the presidential primary.
So Trump derangement syndrome, it only works when you don't
Mhm.
have perspective on history. If you don't know what the Democrats were guilty of, because I always concede to people that Trump is an awful dictator like president, but I'm like, all right, you are making a mistake of underestimating how bad Barack Obama and Donald Trump is, and when you see them do the same tactics that they will criticize Republicans on, because you got called this what it is. This is voter suppression, and you heard nothing but with the Democrats. They always go after voter suppression. And by the way, Democrats, they gerrymander too. Like, people don't talk about it, but they gerrymander in their districts and they stay safe, and it's not like a big story. I don't know how you can directly compare that to the Republican Party, but they do it too. So it's like, bro, I don't buy into your guys' Trump derangement syndrome when you guys pretend he's something that you guys are already doing. You hear me, Nick?
I think, I don't think. See, like, the thing is, like, people say Trump is a threat to democracy, but he's no bigger threat to a democracy than any other president we've had in the last 30 years. That it doesn't, like,
well, that's
the same
because
things.
people don't understand how people are like, he's doing this, he's doing that, and I'm like, yeah, but why does he have the ability to do that?
Exactly.
Because of the presidents behind him, or the ones that came before him, that allowed that, and because of senators like Joe Biden who voted for it. So before you sit here and say, like, he's doing all these things that other presidents haven't done in the past, that's because those powers just became enacted by people like Barack Obama.
Exactly.
So,
and like,
before you sit here and say we need somebody like him back, he's the reason why Trump has those privileges, by the way.
Exactly.
And we still have a Congress who can stop them if they so choose. They don't choose.
No, they empower him. They expand his powers. Like they expand his military budgets and surveillance state. But, like, I mean, you look at the direct comparisons, right? Like, you look at remember when Trump came in office and he had the quote unquote Muslim ban, when he was banning certain countries from immigrating into the United States. Those countries were already in place, right? The language was just different. The language that Barack Obama used to keep immigrants from coming from countries that we were bombing, right? It was just different. And we categorize it differently, and so that way it didn't come off as racially insensitive or Islamophobic. Donald Trump just took the mask off. That's all it is. So he just took the mask off of Western imperialism, right? And now, because liberals believe he's such a great threat, they're going, "Oh, are you seeing what he's doing?" And you're like, "No, this was already in place. This was already happening. You're just now aware of it." So it's more just like them having to reckon with that. Them having to actually recognize that, like, what we've done as a country for the last, since Vietnam, really has been just awful.
Well, see, that's why, to me, Trump is not the threat that liberals pose, because exactly what you just said. Liberals look the other way, like the media looks the other way when liberals do it, because it's fine then. It's okay. It's Barack Obama. He's good. He droned a bunch of people. It's fine. I'm sure they did something. He deported a bunch of people. They were probably criminals. I mean, it's a non-story, right?
Yeah.
But if Trump does the exact same thing, Barack Obama puts people in cages, you know what? They were here illegally. They were crossing the border. Trump says, I'm going to build a wall. Biden says, I'm going to build a wall. And people are like, he's tough on immigrants. He's going to save us. Trump says, I'm building a wall. He's a racist. But don't get me wrong. Trump is a racist. But so is Joe Biden. Come on.
I look at Trump's presidency, and I look at all the ways you can attack him. Like, people don't realize, and I was ready. Like, if Bernie won the nomination, like, bro, I had so many ways I could attack Trump. And one of the problems with liberals is they don't really know how to attack him. And when I say that people, they properly state how bad Trump is, but liberals are incapable of making that argument effectively because if they made an argument, they would be a hypocrite. For example,
It's
Mhm.
coincidence.
I
They're
talk.
just all they're doing is regurgitating what the news tells them, and
Yeah.
they're not
Exactly.
looking into it and realizing that all this has been all the things that they criticize Trump for are things that Barack Obama also did, and some
Mhm.
of these things George W. Bush even did, some of these
Mhm.
things even Clinton did, but
Mhm.
the news didn't tell you that. And that
Exactly.
to me is the danger of Joe Biden is the news isn't going to tell us.
Yeah,
It's
news is
not
Because
pretty
going.
the
Yeah.
easy
one
for
thing I
him.
like about Trump is that he's mask off. We now see what our government is doing.
Exactly. Yeah, and
And
that's
you
the thing
can
you have to wonder about is like if Joe Biden gets back, if Joe Biden gets in charge, and then liberals become politically disengaged, and CNN doesn't talk about the kids in cages, and CNN doesn't talk about the failures in our healthcare system, with in terms of a pandemic, or our failures as a government to meet the needs of our citizens, then they just get to go back to brunch. Like
It's not an if.
it's
That's exactly what's going to
yeah.
happen. That's exactly what they want to happen, which is why they're
Mhm.
trying to bully us into making it happen. They're trying to force us to vote for them so that they
Mhm.
can go back to status quo. That's why his whole thing is build back better. That's the blue version of make America great again.
yeah,
Build,
that's exactly what it
bring
is.
brunch back. Bring brunch back.
Honestly, it may like it's a step away from being like you can go back to yoga. It's okay.
It's pretty
Yeah.
crazy because at first it seemed like the Democrats didn't adjust to Trump, but now after watching Biden candidacy, it clear they actually did. But they actually went towards the direction of Trump. They saw
Mhm.
how effective Trump was, and they like, okay, we're gonna actually imitate that. Because there was a famous tweet. I wish I remember who wrote it, but it was shortly after when Trump won. The tweet was something like, "The Democrats are gonna look at Trump's victory and they're gonna decide we must go more racist." And then that was a funny tweet at the time, and I remember that and it got like a lot of likes. It's a pretty well known tweet, and
Yeah.
that literally what happened. Like,
Yeah.
because if you look at Trumpism and what led Trump to be as successful as he is now, is because
Mhm.
he was able to build this figure that was untouchable by the right wing
Mhm.
media. He was above criticism. He can walk on Fifth
Exactly.
Avenue and shoot someone and not get in trouble. Now
Mhm.
look at what the Democrats built up. The Democrats literally built up their blue MAGA alternative to that. Someone who has
Mhm.
said multiple racist things on the campaign trail, who had lied about his civil rights record multiple times, and this
Yeah.
guy is the guy that the media will never ever report or anything on. For example, Trump just had a very credible sexual assault allegation, which I
Mhm.
stand in solidarity with her because I stand solidarity with all of them, just like I stand in solidarity with Christine Blasey Ford. But when that
Mhm.
story came out, the media reported on that immediately. You had the New York Times, you had the Washington Post. There
Mhm.
was calling the lady, asked for
Mhm.
interviews. I mean, she was immediately. This is my boy Rome.
What's up, Rome?
Not coming on here. What's up, brother?
But man,
What's
What's
good,
going on,
man?
man?
I was just talking about because Trump. I mean, I gotta look into it. I didn't. Hold on, this my thing is glitching here for a second. Hold up. Damn, my whole shit just crash. Well, damn, bruh. What?